Suhara is now 30 years old in the region. The business started off out of Nairobi. We used to move chemicals and LPG, and then very quickly we moved to Tanzania, where we started to do transport activities in the mining sector. And in the last 5 years, we have decided to add on to transport, the terminals and freight forwarding, trying to offer the end customer an end-to-end solution. You want cargo, we can hold it for you through the supply chain, and we can move it for you from origin to your destination.
What changed that made you realize, okay, we need to transition into operations that are a lot more sustainable?
Sustainability was not a question for us. It was almost like a strategy. Why should we use heavier trucks, for example, when we can use lighter trucks and carry more cargo? Why do we outsource our maintenance when we can do it in-house and do it more tightly? So sustainability was a must-have for us.
What was the first thing that you did in the transition? Why did you start with those things?
Internal education, working with multinational. Our customer was a multinational, our supplier was a multinational. They already had a certain set of standards and expectations from us.
Were there any challenges that you faced when you were raising funds for some of these transitions?
Not really. Financing is available, but you have to show progress towards sustainability. It doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be a massive leap, it just has to be pole-pole. The most important checkbox for a banker, a financier, is to look at your P&L, your balance sheet, cash flow. But what they also now are insisting on, the numbers on sustainability, your emission factors, your Scope 1 emissions, your Scope 2 emissions. BOT, Bank of Tanzania, now have guidance and exigencies on sustainability.
What would you say is the risk of doing that? What if we just continue with business as usual?
It's a moral obligation that we must all have. Whether we're in business, we're not in business, we must be teaching this to our children as well. Those small businesses need to start preparing. Otherwise, funding will become very expensive for them as they scale up, and the operational costs will keep going up. Everybody thinks, oh, I cannot do this. It's not for me. Yeah, I'll think about it when the time comes. It's too expensive right now for me to change my ways. No.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Christopher Shire, and I have the pleasure to invite you to another episode of Sustainability Bongo, the podcast, where we have conversations with business leaders, innovators, and other stakeholders within the ecosystem, where we really just try to understand how relevant and practical the sustainability conversation is here in Tanzania. Thanks to our partners, CEO Roundtable and IUCN, which stands for the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, who have collaborated with us to make this a possibility. And we're excited to have these conversations and see where it takes us. With me today is a phenomenal leader who has been within the oil and gas industry for over 16 years and is currently working within the logistics and supply chain management for over 7 years now. He is also the group CEO of Suhara, serving in over, I believe it's 9 countries now across Africa, Middle East, and Asia. This person is also a 2-time Mount Kilimanjaro summiter, and we'll talk about that. This is none other than Mr. Nikesh Mehta. Karibu sana.
Asante sana, Christopher.
Yes.
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. So, Mr. Nikesh, today is an interesting episode for me.
Yes.
Because I would really like, first of all, to understand the realities within the logistics space and the supply chain management space, and also to have a conversation about the transition into operations that are a lot more sustainable. So again, the idea is to see how practical it is. Maybe there's another business person, maybe there's someone who's listening to this who's really trying to understand, okay, how practical is it to do this transition? So before we kick off,
yes,
why don't we start with just you telling us a little bit about Suhara and what it is that you guys do over there?
Yeah.
Karibu.
Asante sana. So, just before I explain what Suhara does, maybe just to give a bit of a context in the logistics and supply chain, and how it works in Tanzania, and what are the key activities, and how it all sits in place. So, our port of Dar es Salaam, ships come in with containers with cargo. It gets cleared. Dar es Salaam serves DRC, Malawi, Zambia, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and that cargo, then most of it stays here. Quite a lot of it, in fact, most of it goes to the neighboring countries. Quite a lot of it stays here. And then equally, Dar es Salaam serves as an export terminal, export port, very crucial for minerals such as copper, manganese that come out of cobalt, that come out of the copper belt, DRC, Zambia, and they quite prefer to use Dar es Salaam port because of its accessibility and reliance. In that context, what is Suhara?
Yeah.
So Suhara is now 30 years old in the region.
Okay.
The business started off in the 1996-97 out of Nairobi. We used to move chemicals and LPG on rail at the time, and then very quickly we moved to Tanzania in 1997, where we started to do transport activities in the mining sector. So at the time, transport would come, commodities would come all the way from Mombasa. I'm talking of fuel predominantly, and it would go all the way to the mining area, the lake region, Geita and all that. So the movement would take about 3 to 4 weeks to do that. With time, of course, our infrastructure developed in Tanzania. So then we started to do that from Dar es Salaam straight to the mining region, and now it takes 3 days. There's a huge sustainability improvement there
100%,
immediately
yeah.
with infrastructure development. So apart from transport, we with time we transitioned into what we call development, so supply chain. In our language, we call it supply chain. We actually hold the chemicals, we hold commodities, we hold water-based products on behalf of customers, and then we distribute them.
Okay.
And usually in the big industries, oil and gas, mining. So that's our second vertical. And in the last 5 years, we have decided to add on to transport, the terminals and freight forwarding business. So it's trying to offer the end customer an end-to-end solution, pretty much. So you want cargo, we can hold it for you through the supply chain, and we can move it for you from origin to your destination, basically.
I see.
That's what Suhara is all about.
Okay. I was going to ask what integrated logistics means, but I think you just answered it right
Exactly.
now. Oh, okay. So it's essentially piecing together all the pieces and offering one holistic solution across the board.
Exactly. What we used to do only two parts of it. There was the development, so holding the inventory and reselling it, and we used to do the transport.
Yeah.
But we've gone up the value chain to have that integrated solution for the customer now. Yes.
Okay. That is very interesting. And I think just to build on what you're saying, I think I was reading something yesterday, and he was talking about how the logistics sector specifically is such a large contributor to the national GDP.
Yes.
I think it's the fifth largest contributor. And what was interesting is that in the same publication, it also spoke about how, the logistics space is also the largest contributor in terms of greenhouse gas emissions as well. And I think I'm saying this to sort of paint this picture that majority of us and maybe some of the listeners might have of, okay, this is a very carbon intensive sector, and maybe could even be intimidating for some to even begin to think about
Yes.
sustainability like that. So I think the question that I want to start with or lead with is, over and above, these kind of statistics, and over and above the government mandates to reduce emissions by 30 to 35 in 2030, what within the Suhara context change that made you realize, okay, we need to transition into operations that are a lot more sustainable?
Good. Now, as I explained to you, the context of our location, be it Mombasa, where we're based, or be it Dar es Salaam, where we're based, every time we pick a container from Dar port or cargo from Dar port, and we take it to the neighboring country, a truck would do an average of 3,500 to 4,000 kilometers of a journey. So that journey can last anything between 15 days to 45 days. If you're coming back with cargo, then it could push to 40, 45 days, unfortunately, because of all the inefficiencies. And that is another area where we can develop. Now, in order to run this efficiently, and to make some value out of it, clearly you have to curb your costs, right? Your variable expenses, your in transport specifically, you have your tires, your fuel, your maintenance. So sustainability was not a question for us. It was almost like a strategy. It was almost like an operational requirement to improve efficiency, to improve our bottom lines, in fact.
Okay.
So that has got thinking, why should we use heavier trucks, for example, when we can use lighter trucks and carry more cargo? Why should we use a truck that has no value after 5 years and use a truck that you can actually work for 10 years and then still have a resultant resale value on the truck? Why do we outsource our maintenance when we can do it in-house and do it more tightly, you know? So sustainability was almost like an important thing for us and a must-have for us, basically.
So it's almost like a no-brainer for, I guess, for pun intended, for sustainability of the business. It was a no-brainer for you to consider things that would improve your efficiency and also ultimately improve your bottom line by looking at where you can change a few things or bring certain things in-house.
Yes.
Okay, so, and I think maybe for the listener who maybe might just be hearing me say transition, what actually did it entail? I know we've briefly spoken off camera about, the fleet, the changes in the fleet, solar panel installations, etc. But what was the first thing that you did in the transition, and why did you start with those things, if I may ask that way?
I think the first thing was really internal education. When the business started back in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was working with multinationals. Really, our customer was a multinational. Our supplier was a multinational. And they already had a certain set of standards and expectations from us. That if you're delivering product from here to here, we don't want you to drive fast. We don't want you to have accidents on the road. We don't want you to injure anybody or kill anybody, for that matter. So at the very beginning, the grassroots levels, we started to adapt ourselves through these programs that were imposed to us, but also taught to us, and they actually held our hands to get there. And then very quickly we started to impart the same to our colleagues. So in the case of the very early business, transport, there was driver training, for example. It was to make sure that they drive at a certain level. After 4 hours, they take a half an hour pause. They drive for another 2 hours. Then they take a 1 hour pause. So they shouldn't drive more than 10 hours per day.
Okay.
And maximum they're allowed to is another 2 hours if they ask for permission. Number 2 was sometimes, you get carried away, you forget. So you have telematics. So in those days, just tracking, and you had somebody sitting in front of a computer watching the truck move, and he would just say, okay, now the driver has to stop. Basic things like that, which were the grassroots level foundation of sustainability for us.
Okay. I'm hearing you talk about essentially capacity building, because
Yes.
I think there is an information gap that pre-exists, and I think I'm comforted to hear that that was one of the initial things that you had done, and especially even looking at one of the, I guess you could say, low-hanging fruits to what can change, such as the example that you gave. But I also understand, over and above that, there are also some other major differences that you've made, let's say in some of your warehousing stations and
Yes.
whatnot. Could you speak about that a little bit as well?
Yeah. So as we started to integrate up the value chain, we used the same learnings from our previous activities. We used the same learnings from our other entities. For example, what we've achieved in the UAE, we said, okay, if they can do it there, why can't we do it here? So as we transitioned, for example, with warehousing and terminals, we have almost 20,000 square meters of warehousing in the UAE. But the way it has been done, the way energy is being conserved, so there's ambient temperature, there's cold temperature, so stuff that's like, we're talking frozen, right? We have about 700, 800 square meters of space, where you put potatoes and eggs, and because UAE is a net importer of food stuff. So it was more like learning from them and then imparting it in East Africa.
Okay.
We do tank logistics, for example. So today, most of the chemicals that come into East Africa are in drums, in ISO tanks. We say, no, but this is a lot of waste. It's also a lot of handling. How can we change this? So in the developed world, chemicals move in bulk in what we call ISO tanks, 25,000 liters up to 28,000 liters. We started to bring those kind of solutions here. In terminals, we said, okay, in a warehouse, the basic model is you hear the word go down. You get me, in Dar es Salaam or in Suhara. We talk of go downs, but we said, let's think beyond a go down. What do we need to do to get more in a restrained space? So instead of having something yani go down ya kawaida ina urefu wa mita 6, why do you have to stop there? Why not go 8.5? Why not go 10 meters? You get me? So we said, okay, we'll have the same imprint surface, but we'll go 2-3 meters higher. And then instead of just piling stuff up, we'll put racks. And then we said, okay, well, then you all of a sudden you have 7 racks. So in a 1,000 square meter space, I can store just as much as a go down of 3,000 square meters.
Got you.
So we started to reduce space and make more out of it. So one, you store more. Number 2, you can sift through cargo very easily because of all the racking. And then you're saving on energy, right? You have that much less electricity to consume, air conditioning to consume. So again, it's just give it a bit more time, think it through, learn from what you've done elsewhere, learn from what others are doing elsewhere, and then bring it back. That's the model we've always adopted.
Okay. Now that makes sense. I think even the thought about adding just a few more meters, it's I think it just requires a different kind of perspective on the same challenge to solve, so to say, which you've spoken about electricity consumption, right?
Yes.
And I read something also still on Suhara about how I believe you have a new CFS in Bagala, if I'm not mistaken, which has solar panel installations.
Exactly.
Which I believe the publication said there was about 58% of the energy needed in a day can be facilitated by the
Exactly.
solar panels. So I think that's another wonderful example of how such things could take place. This episode of Sustainability Bongo is brought to you by CEO Roundtable in partnership with IECN via the Resolve NBS initiative. Under its business and sustainability agenda, the CEO Roundtable has been working with the private sector in integrating sustainability in their respective business strategies. The Resolve NBS initiative is a very practical way of showing how nature-based solutions can create real impact right here in Tanzania. We're so proud to have them as our partners on this journey as we decode Tanzanian's sustainability story. So maybe there's a listener or someone who's watching this who's thinking to themselves, transitioning requires, a lot of money or a lot of funding. And I just wanted to understand from your perspective, were there any challenges that you faced when you were raising funds, for example, for some of these transitions? If so, what were they and how would you do it differently knowing what you know now?
So, I mean, coming back to the point on solar panels, so one of the verticals of the group, so there's 4 verticals in the group. There's the freight forwarding, there's the transport, there's the terminals, and then the 4th vertical is supply chain, or we call it developments as well. So through that, we've been commercializing lubricants, but high quality lubricants, synthetic oils. So what that does is it improves your drain intervals. So instead of draining quickly, you drain a lot longer, you sustain a lot longer, so you have less waste. Then we have a range of water-based products that we have launched into the market. Again, being a front runner in that space, coolants, AdBlue, and something like AdBlue, what it does is it reduces your NOx, so nitrogen dioxide's emissions in your exhaust system in a vehicle, for example.
Okay.
So in Europe, they call it Euro 4, Euro 5, Euro 6, and now they're even thinking of Euro 7. So most of our fleet is Euro 5, Euro 6. So we've introduced these products in the market through Raha Energies. Then as we were building the CFS, and we said, well, how do we reduce our dependence on the utilities? How do we bring it down? So the idea came that, of course, we need solar panels to bring down the electricity. But instead of buying it and just installing it, there's a huge opportunity in that field as well, right? We just saw what happened to Zambia. It's actually still happening to Zambia. In the last 2 years, they have electricity rationing. 3 years now. They get, in some parts of Zambia, they get electricity from the national grid for 1 or 2 hours. Even cities like Lusaka, So the drive of renewable energy in Zambia is gone to another level. So tomorrow that could happen to us here. Yes, I know we are dependent on hydroelectricity and all that, but God knows what if the rivers dry out or we have a drought. So we have to be prepared. So we built an in-house solution for solar panels for ourselves, and through Raha Solar we tested it on our own terminal at the CFS. So that answers your question on the solar panel through Raha Energies and Raha Solar.
Okay.
Now, was it really difficult to raise funds to realize the capex? Not really. Not really. Our partners all along have been DFIs and private capital. And I was mentioning to you early, one of the things that we've learned from them is that financing is available, but you have to show progress towards sustainability. Whether that progress is even small achievement, it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be a massive leap, it just has to be pole pole. Lakini sustainable, you know, that you're always showing results. So the funders and the financiers, they saw this in us. And they said, well, you are in an energy intensive business. You know, transport, you cannot stop from one day to another and move to electric vehicles or natural gas. It's not easy. But if I introduce these basic practices
Yeah.
and sustain them, then I'm at least bringing down my footprint, and I'm preparing myself for that big transition.
Right.
When the electric vehicles come, I'll be ready.
Correct.
But if I'm told to stop from one day to change from diesel to electric, that's a difficult transition. But tumeenda pole pole, taratibu, and then these guys are seeing it. So the financiers are saying, okay, well, we would like to support you.
Yeah.
And one more thing, Chris. Sorry if I call you Chris.
No, it's fine. Completely okay. Yeah.
One more thing, Chris, is remember the private capital and the DFIs are coming from taxpayers in Europe, in US, and these guys are very cautious on where their taxes go. The average human being in France, in Germany, is very cautious on where his money goes, his or her money go. When you have a solution like that, then those guys are like, okay, well, fine. At least our money is going in the right channel in the developing world. So it was difficult, but it wasn't so much of a problem for us because we were prepared and we were doing it gradually.
Okay. I think what I'm hearing you say is, even before, let's say, thinking about raising funds, maybe the initial thought should be, what actually, where's my skin in this game? What am I actually already doing that can demonstrate an inclination towards the route of having more sustainable operations, before even thinking, let's say, I need to raise so and so funds? Because even to your point, the financiers will look at you and say, okay, well, what are you currently doing? What are you aiming to do? Is that a fair way of summarizing what you said?
Yeah, so what financiers, of course, at the end of the day, it's money. Yeah? So, and they want to see numbers. Whether that's, of course, the traditional, the most important checkbox for a banker, a financier, is to look at your P&L, your balance sheet, your cash flow, how you project your business plan, and how you're going to return the monies, the interest, as well as the principal. But what they also now are insisting on is the numbers on sustainability. So your emission factors, your scope 1 emissions, your scope 2 emissions. Basically, if you start with baby steps, and you have a leadership as an example, where you put in place an environment officer or HSE officer. This is something that I learned from my oil and gas days. And in fact, the HSSE position was always reporting to the managing director or the country manager. So we were very, very keen on that in Suhara. So we put that in place. And immediately, as soon as my colleague Emmanuel came into place, initially he was looking after Tanzania, and with the private capital, we realized when we did the gap analysis, he needs to look after the region. And then he started to look after Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and he says, okay, let me start with a baseline audit and find out what are the emissions in each of the entities. And then data is readily available in our case, because we run on ERP.
Right.
SAP, for example. We also have all the trucks are fitted with telematics, the tracking system, so you can get the kilometers from every truck every day, every month. On the warehousing, you have your warehouse management system, so you can see in and out of cargo, so you can calculate that.
Right.
So putting all that data together started to give us the numbers that we wanted for scope 1 and scope 2. And now it's become almost part of the DNA that every week we must publish, or every month we must publish these results to the financiers. Okay. And those guys, they don't stop. Once they've given you this, they keep checking on you, which is good, because it challenges you and makes you work towards the common objective, basically.
Yeah. I think it also creates a sense of accountability and transparency, which I think is super important in this conversation. Because if it was just like a one-off thing and here are your funds, then it kind of defeats the purpose of having that level of a relationship, because sustainability does require accountability. Okay, I think I'm interested to know. We've spoken about, one of the things that you had done was to address the capacity building. It was to look at the baseline. It was also now to you didn't necessarily have challenges raising funds, because in your case there was already progress that you were working on. So I think, again, wearing a hat of, let's say, a business person who is maybe not necessarily thinking about this conversation, or maybe is skeptical in one way or another, what would you say, using your case as a case study, are some of the measurable benefits that you've had for implementing sustainable operations? I know we've spoken that it was a no-brainer, but I'm just curious, can you speak on just a few big benefits that could eventually, maybe hopefully, influence a listener who is on the fence about this?
Yeah. So you cited a number there, 58% on electricity saving at the Bagala CFS. Immediately, that's a quick win. On the benefits we've had, but we've also shared with customers. So if I take the example of one of our mining customers, one of our objective is always to show them that their dependence on lubricants or these water-based products is going down. And they're getting a year-on-year saving. So we bring in products, and then we bring in the capacity building to train them, to ensure that they're applying the right chemical or the right oil or the right coolant at the right time, in the right manner. So we are also sharing the benefits that we are seeing with them. We are also sharing the benefits amongst ourselves. So the Raha Energies portfolio, the products from the portfolio, also goes into Suhara, its own trucks.
Okay.
So whereby you then bring down you reduce your intervals of drainage on your trucks. One thing that we spoke about AdBlue, for example, and what is very disturbing in Tanzania is everybody buys second-hand vehicles from the UK. Okay, now UK is already Euro 6 and above. And then they bring it down to Euro 3, so they disable the AdBlue injection system, the catalytic converter. They actually downgrade the truck.
Oh, is it?
So that they don't have to apply or put AdBlue. We continue doing that. We only downgraded when it was absolutely necessary, but we continued doing that. Until date, we continue doing that. So with that, there's also a reduction in consumption of our diesel.
Okay.
What you then do is through telematics, the tracking, you also monitor the diesel that you consume. I don't want to disclose all our secrets, but but it's very easy to see how many kilometers you're running for every liter, and then you must set yourself a target and KPIs for your operational people. And guys, you must reduce this.
Okay.
So those were very quick improvements that we started to see.
Yeah. Okay. You've. I just want to take you back a little bit.
Sure.
You've mentioned Raha Energies, but could you speak a bit about that? Because I don't think I have the full context of it. Because you did mention it when we were speaking about solar panel installations,
Yes.
and I think what is Raha Energies?
So Raha Energies is it's a business in itself. So one of the 4 verticals was developments. So Raha Energies falls under developments, where they market water-based products in the mining space or in the industries, in machines. You're talking of coolants. An engine needs to be cooled all the time. You're talking of biodegreasers. When you clean an engine, when you clean moving parts that have grease, the average fundi here will use kerosene or diesel to clean it. So then it'll get cleaned, but then what do you do with the affluent, right? Now with water-based biodegreasers, that can be ejected into the drainage, and then it goes through the separation process. But most of the affluent is water-based, so that can be ejected instead of it being kerosene. So those are the kind of products that we brought in. And so that's what Raha Energies does. Raha Energies also supplies aviation fuel in the parks. It supplies chemicals into the gold mining industry, basically. And then the last but not the least is the solar solution that Raha Energies is now promoting.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, in a sense, it's like an ecosystem that also drives the same agenda, because I think you mentioned earlier when we were offline that water-based.
I think it's leading the agenda in our group at the moment.
Okay.
It is really leading the agenda, and the name itself gives it all, right? Raha Energies. So we're really leading the sustainability agenda through Raha Energies.
Okay. No, that's phenomenal, actually. I think just to sort of balance out this conversation, I'm trying to also understand, right? We've spoken about the transition itself, the reasons behind it. We've also spoken briefly about, why it's beneficial. So now I want to speak to the person who's thinking, my business is working. I don't see why I should transition, maybe specifically they're in the logistics space, or even if it's a different space. What would you say is the risk of doing nothing? Like, what if we just continue with business as usual?
One, it's a moral obligation that we must all have, sustainability. Whether we're in business, we're not in business, we must be teaching this to our children as well, how to manage waste and not to keep throwing things around, and be useful and use things properly. Number two, for the average business, my point is that everybody who goes into business wants to grow the business, right? If I'm going to open a shop tomorrow, if I'm going to start a small manufacturing unit, if I'm going to have a trucking company or a small fleet of even daladalas, I want to keep growing. Now, as you grow, you're going to need external funding. Okay, you're going to need to curb your costs. Now, even our local banks, they do get support from DFIs or international funding. Now, international funding is getting tighter and tighter. Not only that, even BOT, Bank of Tanzania, now have guidance and exigencies on sustainability.
Correct. Yeah.
That they're asking from the NMBs, the CRDBs, the NBCs, everybody, right? So it's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. At the moment, they're asking for us to give data. But at some point, it'll be a condition to give data and a condition to show that you're actually achieving it. So those small businesses need to start preparing. Otherwise, funding will become very expensive for them as they scale up in time. And the operational costs will keep going up. Then they cannot complain that the medium tier companies or the multinationals are taking over. And yes, they will, because you are not preparing yourself.
Okay.
I don't know if I was clear there.
No, you're very clear. I think I'm just trying to piece together what you've said, especially referencing the BOT, right? Because there is a downstream of financing, and if BOT themselves are getting mandates and DFIs that have conditions, then naturally that would trickle down even to the business owner. So I think, okay, so then if I'm to paraphrase, I think what you're saying is the risk would be you would be putting the well-being of your business at risk by not preparing for future conditions that would require you to be able to check off certain credentials or requirements for you to be able to, let's say, get financing and grow your business, etc., etc. Right?
Exactly.
That's a very interesting perspective, because then it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, which was sustainability for you was essentially a strategy. It was a business well-being strategy, for lack of a better description, if you will. Now, I want to ask one question, which I ask every guest that I have, and the reason is, again, because we are trying to demystify certain things about sustainability, and I think there's a lot of connotations or beliefs that people have. So I want to ask you, what would you say is a myth about sustainability that you would like the listener to let go of?
I think it's that it's expensive to transition.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a very big misconception. That everybody thinks is that, oh, I cannot do this. It's not for me. Yeah, I'll think about it when the time comes. It's too expensive right now for me to change my ways. No, you must start and start slowly. Identify, do your baseline assessment, identify, group out your organization, categorize your organization, and say these are the areas where I can immediately start saving if I do it like this, if I do it like that. You don't necessarily need consultants to come and teach you these things. There are a lot of people within your own teams. You will find ideas. The
Yes.
the Gen Z today, they when they go to work for a company, they want oat milk at the coffee machine. The things have changed.
Yeah.
But these guys have a lot of ideas. So you have to get ideas from your people, and once you start to split your organization, say which is the easiest thing I can start to put in place. Voila, start.
Yeah. I think that you mentioned Gen Z and something just kind of, I can't remember the exact number, but I remember reading something that was talking about a huge percentage of Gen Zs would even question, let's say, the products that they buy, what is the story behind the product, how it's made, how sustainable it is. So there are expectations that the younger generation has for businesses and products that are coming out from a sustainability perspective. And I think, just going back to what you were saying right now about the myth of sustainability being expensive, I think, to your point earlier, there is an advantage, a long-term advantage, I believe anyway, in being able to accommodate such, because in the long term, they actually save you money. They give you opportunities to access more money. And so I think I tend to agree with what you're saying, especially from that perspective. And I just remembered something else that I wanted to ask you as well before we close, because unfortunately our time is coming to an end. But what would you say? I think oftentimes people might have great ideas, but there's, in some situations, maybe blockers in terms of maybe not getting buy-in from certain decision makers. How would you define the role of leadership, let's say, in a business when it comes to adopting the sustainability conversation and agenda?
How do you define the role of leadership in this agenda?
Yeah.
I think more of us leaders and members of the CEO roundtable need to come out and embrace the matter. Our role is very, very important to impart on the new generation of of our colleagues who are actually asking for this completely off this subject. You know, today's leader, when he's talking about his business or his strategy or his marketing, his products, is expected to go to TikTok as well, you know.
Yeah.
So treat sustainability like that and go down to the grassroots and understand it and impart it. If you don't embrace it, then as a leader, then like everything else, you know, nobody else will follow through. So today's leaders, if you're going to go to TikTok to start marketing your products, why not? Sustainability is going to save you money at the end of the day as a leader, you know, and make your foundation, make your organization more long term, to have a future.
Okay, so there's I guess you could say there's a sense of, I don't want to say capacity building, but like bridging that information gap even amongst leaders themselves as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now that makes sense. I think that makes a ton of sense, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, we're coming really close to the end of our time here together. But I just want to recap just to see if I got what you're saying correctly, and also just to kind of look for practical takeaways for the listeners. So initially, you know, in your case, the subject of sustainability was a no-brainer because it was very important for your strategy in terms of, you know, optimizing your bottom line. But then also you spoke about how, you know, these practices themselves tend to increase efficiency in everyday operations, and how that is important even when it comes to being able to demonstrate progress, which is, again, very important when looking or seeking financing and funding for the same. So I'm seeing also an importance in investing in capacity building from the people who are implementing all the way up to leadership, which is what we've just discussed. But more importantly, I think what really resonated with me, which you just said right now, is I think the reframing and the changing of our minds about just how expensive, you know, transitioning into sustainable operations can be, so that we can even begin to conceive the idea that it's doable, and to start at the baseline, to start at the things that can easily be a point of entry, and then transition into bigger things, which would make this whole transition a lot easier and beneficial in the long run. So thank you very much for that wisdom and insight.
Welcome, Chris. Thank you.
I do welcome further conversations. Unfortunately, we do have limited time on the podcast, but I think we'll definitely need to possibly even arrange for another session, perhaps, just to dig deeper into the insights that you just shared right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you to CEO Roundtable. They've always been supportive of this. This is my third or fourth engagement in this field, and I'm quite passionate about it. So and they've identified that. So thanks to them as well, and thank you very much for all these questions and the invitation.
Yes. Asante sana.
Asante sana.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks to our lead partners, CEO Roundtable and IUCN, under the Resolve NBS initiative. Together, we've collaborated and brought you the Sustainability Bongo podcast, where we have conversations that help us decode the Tanzanian sustainability story.